Let's take a look at some information and charts on Dogecoin for BraveNewCoin. Dogecoin is a proof of work coin that is merge mined with Litecoin on the script consensus algorithm. Take a look at hash rate difficulty, some on-chain stats, dev commits, Google Trends, and technical analysis at the end. So Doge historically was mostly a meme joke pump and dump coin, and it is continuing to fulfill its destiny perhaps, in that it brought a lot of crypto people, or brought a lot of non-native crypto people into crypto with the allure of integer bias, as well as being extremely cheap in general relative to everything else in crypto. Its popularity rose substantially recently in the United States due to trading availability on Robinhood, along with other meme stonks, and a little bit of Elon Musk there in the mix as well. That pretty much catches us up to present day. So if we look at hash rate and difficulty, this has sloshed around a lot and isn't too important for me, as somebody who would trade this, it wouldn't be important. It's ranging, it's not trending, it's not collapsing, it's regained. The collapse potentially China related, potentially price related, potentially botnet related. You never really know with this stuff, but all that has gained steam once again. We even have new script ASICs coming in a couple months with very high profitability. So it is likely that we're seeing some of that already on chain ahead of this release. This is at 4 cents per kilowatt hour, which is what most industrial miners get, if not better, for electricity costs. And I doubt that this includes both Doge and LTC. Most of the revenue is Doge, but LTC is still 1.3 million per day currently. Doge is 3.3 million per day currently as far as the rate or market share. It's a 70-30 split essentially, with Doge out on top big time. So it remains to be curious, or it remains curious to me why Doge has held these levels. Because if I was a Doge miner making any amount of money in Doge per day, I would be nonstop dumping it on the market. This thing historically has never been up here at this price. It is up several multiples from the historic range of 200 sats to 1000 sats. That's just an easy sell for me. So I'm surprised the market is holding up even as strong as it is. Inflation's still relatively low, 3.8%. Dash, ETC, Zcash all much higher. BTC, Monero much lower. ETH, hard to get the exact value these days because of EIP 1559, but it's probably closer to 2 and 3% than it is to 4 and 5% with the burn that's happened so far. There are lots of Doge nodes, which is good. Most of those nodes are upgraded to the newer or newest versions, which is a good measure of decentralization as far as maintaining consensus, not being prone to attacks on nodes, mitigating those ahead of time. So from that perspective, this is good. It's globally decentralized as well. Most of the nodes are in the United States, but there are lots of slices to that pie. If we look at transaction counts, this is where things start to get bearish because we had all-time highs in transaction counts on chain, probably a lot related to Robinhood and Elon Musk and VCs jumping into the bandwagon, all sorts of reasons, hedge funds. Now, all that's gone. We're now at multi-year lows for transaction counts. We're at 17,000 per day. That is a 4-year low for transaction counts. That's not bullish for anything. Transaction values are down significantly, basically back to the early 2021 highs. So all of the on-chain activity just vanished, gone, down to lows it hasn't seen in many years. Unconfirmed transactions holding steady at sub 100, even lower than April, May. Just another way to show there's just nothing happening on chain relative to what was happening on chain. Active addresses in the fill here, another one to look at, down significantly from 140,000 to 60,000, over a 50% decline there. Not multi-year lows, but definitely approaching multi-year lows. It's getting there. So it's just hard to be bullish when you see that. NVT had been at all-time lows, and now it's pulling back up. And it was a bit late. It kind of missed, depending on how you want to read this, it missed most of the action, unless you think of a declining NBT as bullish, which you can, that's fine. It's just telling you to, for me, it's telling you to buy at August 1st, and we're still going lower. So either NVT is early or it was super wrong when it told you that it looked like a good place to buy. That's why I like MVRV a little better. It's a direct measure of market cap versus on-chain activity. And historically for Doge, we've topped out around a 3x multiple. Not once, not twice, but really 4 or 5 times. The absolute top was around 50 cents when we reached a 3.6 multiple. Currently, we're still at 1.5. And in general, below 1 has been the buy zone. So it's kind of in between a bunch of stuff, in that it's not quite in the buy zone. It's closer to the sell zone, probably at this point at 3. So if this does perk back up, I would definitely be watching MVRV to see where we sit relative to 1 or 3. And there have actually been commits on chain or on GitHub over the past few months since January, kind of when things took off. There had been a flurry of activity. Some of this is LTC stuff probably, or Bitcoin commits, merge commits. It says excluding merge commits, but point being, there was activity, then it got completely trashed to 0, and now we're seeing activity again as price is rising. So the price for Doge might not be bright, but from a development perspective, at least people are coming back to the table, mainly because Doge has a bit of a treasury to spend here on development, so they can pay people. Dogecoin Google Trends, probably the most bearish of all, have absolutely been reset. So you can either read this as I'm bearish because there's no interest or activity here relative to where we were, or you can say we're probably closer to the bottom because now we've zeroed out the momentum and the hype and the insanity where everybody's trading Doge on Robinhood at work more than they're working at work, right? All that's probably gone. The excitement surrounding Doge probably gone. And we're basically back to earlier in the year levels of non-excitement. Flipping gears to technicals, this is the 1-year MA in the bottom in the green and then the multiplier in the red. Now, historically, this did snipe the top twice. It's done decently well on the bottom. Most recently, January, February, March, April, May, this thing exceeded the multiple and kept going for months. So this is kind of the worst case scenario for this metric, because on backtesting, it looks really good. It tells you, okay, here's a couple weeks where we're overbought, good time to DCA out. Whereas here, if you're DCAing out at 0.16, you're missing a ton of the move, right? Yeah, this reconsolidated. It had head and shoulders at the top. There were all sorts of things that tell you to stay in versus get out, but this metric kind of failed in that regard. Even still, the bottom here is probably going to be 0.14 or thereabouts, if I had to guess, based on the 365 MA, even though I think this thing really needs to go back to like sub 5 cents, especially based on on-chain activity, Google Trends, mining revenue. This thing should continue to sell off, but based on technicals, 0.14 looks okay. We did reach the 200-day moving average today, kind of in a big way. This thing had been inching its way down, tightening in between the 50 and the 200. A bit of a low time frame descending triangle here. So not a surprise that it broke down from the 200. But when you see a definitive break from a key moving average after a week or two of consolidation, that likely doesn't mean immediate reversal. It took time here at this level, and now it seems as though it's pretty certain with its decision and fate. The next levels to watch are basically previous lows, monthly pivot, and then after that it's 5 to 10 cents, somewhere in there. This thing probably holds at 5 cents. If it does break down, it's probably not going to do it on its own, but I like 5 cents as far as a level where I can start to look at this thing slightly more seriously based on technicals. So that's far below, the 1-year MA even. On the daily cloud, you got a TK, bearish TK cross with price below cloud. So that was your first indication that, yeah, this was either yesterday or today that it crossed. yesterday or the day before. Yeah, this thing probably isn't bouncing anytime super soon, and you get a big move down today. Obviously, you have to be watching this at the time if you're trading this, and it's looking like even mid-October, you won't exactly know how bullish we could be unless we're above 30 cents. If we round the corner and everything's insane again and we're above 30 cents in mid-October, then yeah, let's go to 50 cents, let's go to $1. But that is extremely unlikely based on where this sits currently. Maybe November, maybe December, but even then, I wouldn't count on this thing just miraculously pulling back above 30 cents. I think a lot of people, especially new traders, new retail hands, paper hands, whatever, are going to be mega ultra uber trapped, because I'm assuming a lot of them are long or still holding from above a quarter. And the further it gets away from that, the more people get antsy, concerned, in fear. I think there are more people that are going to be fearing this move sub a quarter than embracing the lows to buy the dip. Let's just put it that way. On the 12-hour cloud, I told you this thing was in trouble when it broke below the cloud at around 29 cents beginning of September. So it went from bullish reversal to inability to hold any highs back into the cloud, immediately through the cloud. That was it really on the 12-hour. So this thing needs to get back above the 12-hour to really have any chance in the future. And on the weekly, it's like, this is it for me really for Doge. I don't need to see anything else. Now this chart prevented me from holding anything mega past 100 sats, but it got to 1,000 sats. That's a 10x from the historic high, right? A 10x from the historic all-time high, basically. Absolute insanity. So this thing is most comfortable from, I said 200, I guess I meant 30 to 100 sats historically, and it's up here, still at around 480 sats. It's still mind-blowing to me that it's holding these levels. On the daily cloud for Doge BTC, you had a crisscross TK lines here with a bearish TK cross with price below cloud. That was early September, telling you bearish continuation is more likely than bullish reversal when you see stuff like that. That's the ultimate bear sign. It's the opposite of a bullish TK cross above the cloud. And the bullish continuation sign, but it was there, right? So now it's basically at multi-month lows, and there really isn't support, right? Like, where do you draw support on this chart? 200 sats? I guess between 100 and 200 sats, it has a chance at finding some bids. And then on the 5200 daily, it's very likely going to get a death cross here over the next month, I'd imagine, certainly by the next time I do a video here. And most of the volume support is definitely sub 220 sats. There are some monthly pivots on the way down, 340, 200, 470. There's probably is where this pivot is. But I would just have no confidence that this thing holds any of these levels, especially seeing miner revenue so high. If I'm a miner and I've been holding this entire time, let's say you're mining, you're holding from any level above 100 sats here. At what point do those people start to panic and say, yeah, I probably need to start selling, right? I don't know the answer to that. You could find that out if you were able to track the Doge miner wallets, which I don't even know if anybody does that. Maybe Glassnodes does that, but that'd be one thing to look at. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH BTC fund and DeFi portfolio. I trade for Techemy Capital and Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send Ether, USDC, or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM performance, allocation, all the vaults and yield I'm collecting here, all of the red on the day. The thing with DeFi, it'll sneeze plus or minus 25% in a matter of hours. So we still hold a lot of this stuff. It's a DeFi portfolio. We're not going to get spooked out too easily at this point, as long as DeFi is holding the ranges it's holding. But lastly, on this, you can also see the trades I'm making here. So you can see we haven't touched this in 25 days for the most part. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.